Welcome back to the Cycling Demystified podcast, your weekly podcast exploring the art, craft and science behind bike fit. This is the way. Welcome back, team. Matt Walton, Matt Chan.
How are we?
Very good. We are going to follow on from last week's podcast about resolving saddle discomfort with some more saddle chat. It's actually pretty simple. There's only like two things that really cause saddle discomfort. So we thought we'd explore that, explain a little bit, give you some more practical tips around how to find a comfortable saddle by showing you or describing some of the common issues that we see in the studio. But before we get onto that, young Chan here has just completed T100, the triathlon.
You said you love a chatty pod. Here we go.
Triathlon chat.
Yeah. Just preface this with, like, we've had this chat already off air when we haven't been recording for about 20 minutes. But it was so good, we thought we'd record it again.
Well, it's going to be different, isn't it? How's your triathlon, Chan?
It's fun.
Triathlon, completed it, mate.
Completed it, done.
The whole of triathlon.
Well, how was your saddle during the triathlon?
It's pretty horrendous, actually.
Which saddle did you actually use?
The high-low.
Okay.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I thought
it changed like 3 days before.
Yeah. I've definitely been saying to people, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, classic.
Random saddle, random position.
Yeah, so it's like every day
race week.
Yeah, every day in race week, like straight after work, like once we finished, he'd be straight on the jig or like on the roller with another saddle, trying to find the one true saddle. Literally every day in race week. So it's very much do as I say, not as I do.
Oh, classic. Yeah. It gets us all, doesn't it? Like the race nerves.
I don't think the saddle's your issue though.
No, probably not.
Oh, should listen to last week's podcast.
My issue, Matt?
Well, there's several.
Well, should we get into it? This week, the chat is all about saddle pain, discomfort, and there's only two real causes. Like, there's two things that people feel when they're on the saddle and they're feeling discomfort, and that is excessive saddle pressure and excessive saddle friction, or actually a combination of both. So three things then. And that might manifest in saddle chafing. If you've got too much friction or rubbing against your body, then saddle will chafe against your skin. You might get numbness in areas that you don't want it, in your genitals, and nobody wants that, so that's not great. But also just excessive compression through any part of your body, through your sit bones. People quite often come in saying the sit bones. People get skin irritation from all the rubbing. But do you guys get any other issues? People, what do people usually come in complaining about?
It's usually variations on those themes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's pressure, friction, combination of the two.
Yeah.
Pressure can be on bone or soft tissue. Yeah. Usually like single-sided.
Yeah.
Friction.
Yeah.
Saddle sores. Like sometimes so bad that the skin's broken.
Yeah. Quite often you can see it on their bib short as well.
Yeah.
There's usually a wear mark on one side.
Yeah.
Or on the saddle itself.
Yeah, there's someone in the other week who was like describing how they just wear a hole in one side of their bib shorts.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's expensive. Probably want to look at that.
Well, yeah, it kind of manifests anywhere on the bike, really. And one guy kept breaking pedals because he was sitting kind of asymmetrically, but a lot of his pain would come out on the saddle.
But yeah, it's overwhelmingly a combination of those two things.
So, what can we do about it? That's the issue that everyone wants to kind of understand. What do we want to do? Where would you start? Like, if someone comes in with like kind of too much pressure, or they're getting some numbness, you know, where do we start?
The beginning. No, where I would start, like, it depends, doesn't it, who the individual is. So, like, if you've got a bike in front of you which usually we do in a bike fit, you might start by looking at their overall position, how they're interacting with the bike globally.
Ultimately, any of the contact points can cause
exactly.
numbness in the saddle.
So you kind of look at
the
the system as a whole and give it a big picture of kind of like how that person is interacting with their bike. See how they're interacting with all of the contact points, not just honing in on the saddle itself as a start. But then you kind of want to have a look at people moving away from the bike. And I think this is vitally important, because especially if someone's got like a complaint of pressure or friction on one side, or if it's not bilateral discomfort, if it's just on one side, then you need to figure out where that asymmetry is coming from. Mm-hmm. Is it the bike that's forcing that rider into a kind of a movement pattern that they might not appreciate? Or is this a learned movement pattern that is present regardless of bike position? So we often use squats as a diagnostic. It's a good proxy for bike riding. You make a similar shape when you're on the bike. And the amount of shifting about we see at people's hips, laterally or in any direction really.
Any rotation.
Any direction you can think of. That can often lead you to some very kind of like enlightening conclusions as to maybe why someone's doing something on a bike.
So I think we covered quite a lot of this in our asymmetry series, which was a couple of weeks ago. So if you haven't listened to that, I would encourage you to go and listen to that, because as Matt says, the body and how it functions and how symmetrically it moves will determine how you interact with the bike itself. So, if you understand how your body moves, then you'll probably get a better idea for how it will likely interact with on the bike itself.
So I think the short answer to your question is, before you do anything, you need to build context as to why certain things might be happening. Mm-hmm. Before you start moving anything around on a bike, before you do tinker with anything, you need to have context as to why certain things might be happening.
Yeah. And actually that made me think about discomfort and pain itself. And often a query or question that we get is like, kind of, what is expected pain? What is normal pain? What should I be expecting? Should some people just come in and say, well, saddle's uncomfortable, right? And that's how it should be. But how do we explain that to people in terms of like, what should they be expecting from their saddles? Chan, do you want to have a stab at this one?
I would say, kind of as a rule of thumb, when I'm addressing this with people, if you're experiencing a lot of pressure through your sit bones and your bones only, that's probably somewhere more approaching the realm of something that you need to get used to. Not always, but that's my general approach to it. If any of that includes pressure through soft tissue, then that I would say is an unacceptable level of discomfort.
Yeah, that you want to sit on the stuff that is designed to take weight.
Solid.
Bone. So you want to take weight through your bones, not through the soft tissue.
Yeah, and I think like as a kind of a second stage to that, you want to be in control of your interaction with the bike and in control of, or in a certain amount of control of your discomfort. Now, if you sit on something like a saddle for long enough, you're going to feel something. Mm-hmm. That's normal.
Yeah, you sit on anything for long enough, you're going to feel something.
You sit on an old sofa for long enough, it's going to be uncomfortable. But again, it's kind of like, where is the weight being taken? Where's the kind of the main structures that are supporting you? Is it bone? That's probably okay. I mean, it is okay. If it's soft tissue, that needs to be addressed. But then also, there's this sort of secondary element, which I know we're going to get onto later, so I'm not going to go straight in. But it's kind of like, do you have the capacity to control your interaction with the bike for as long as you want to? I.e., do you have enough strength and fitness, for want of a better term, to apply force through the pedals for as long as you want to or / need to, in order to control your interaction with the bike for the duration of your ride?
Yeah.
If the answer to that question is no, then you either got to reevaluate your ambitions or do some work to make it better.
Yeah, and I think on that note, if you ride your bike and you realize that you get sore after a certain amount of time, but the more you ride, the better the comfort gets, or the time to the discomfort increases, so essentially you're increasing your bed capacity, then I think you're probably going in the right direction. Like, some things do need to be trained in, and fitness is a big element in determining how comfortable you are.
I'd say strength.
Yeah, I was thinking about pulling you up on the use of the word fitness there.
I did, that was and I knew as soon as I said it, that was a bad word. The strength is the word.
Control.
Yeah. Well,
But as you get fitter,
yeah,
that contributes to being able to push.
Fitness helps.
Fitness helps, but strength is the key thing. I can see you're getting proper raged here.
Triggered.
Well,
Captain Pedantic over there.
Yeah. They're all
think
part
you'll
of the same equation, right? You need the fitness to be able to sustain the strength or apply the strength that you have.
Yeah, the fitness helps.
Yeah.
Fitness is a terrible term.
No, because I don't want the takeaway for people who aren't maybe on the same page as us to be that you need to be in the world tour to be comfortable on your saddle.
Yeah. No, for sure. But I think what
you can have the fitness to be able to ride 40k at 20k an hour, and still be comfortable in your saddle.
Yeah, I think what you've taken umbrage to is fitness as aerobic capacity.
Yeah. But that's it's not umbrage. I just wanted to clarify.
You've been proper raged here.
It's all right. We're all on the same page now.
Okay. Good.
We can move
Glad
on.
we cleared that up.
But just as a kind of conclusion to kind of what to expect from saddle pain, I think saddles can be comfortable, and they should be comfortable enough for you to do what you want to do on the bike. As you said, Matt, do you have the capacity? Do you have the comfort to complete what you want to do on the bike? And if it's not, then you should seek out a solution to making it better. Have you exhausted all the potential avenues for making it more comfortable? And if you're not in control, as you were saying earlier, then you should do something about it. If you're being subject to that pain, if every time you get off the bike you're getting some numbness or pain or chafing that you didn't choose, then that is definitely a time to do something about it. So let's just say, for example, your bike fit is great. So we're just going to concentrate on saddles themselves. Let's give the people some examples of why you would, or what saddles would, or what aspects of saddles would create numbness where we don't want it.
This is a big rabbit hole we're about to go down.
We can probably break this down into categories. You can tell we've thought this through. Shape, I would say, is probably number one.
So assuming that the saddle is on, like, your bike environment is good, and the saddle is like positioned where it kind of like needs to be.
Yeah, because people just want to know about saddles at the moment. We've talked endlessly
which
about.
Irks me as well. But
I know, because we're bike fitters, right?
Strong assumption.
Yeah.
Strong assumption.
Which we will move past.
That your bike environment is good.
Yeah, we've talked about the bike environment, but I think people want us to get into the details of like the saddles themselves. And I've had questions about, why do you have like 200 different like saddles? Do I need to test 200 different saddles? Like, what's the difference between them all? Which models work for which person? Why do we choose these like different models? And so let's address those two issues of like kind of excessive pressure and friction, and just describe some of the saddles that we have which may help resolve some of those issues. So let's start off with the pressure issue.
All right. You want to go, or shall I go?
So what?
Pressure where? Can we clarify?
Let's go with like central pressure, just
so
pressure.
Soft tissue.
Soft tissue.
Yeah.
The bits where you don't want it, the important bits.
Yeah, things that are causing
pressure.
numbness.
Yeah.
And it's worrying.
All right. This is like the QI buzzer moment, isn't it? Like, cut out.
Yeah.
Before
anything else. Well, actually, no. I would say no. Before anything else, it's some sort of relief it doesn't necessarily have to be a cutout, but does the saddle allow the bones to take the weight?
Yep.
So is there some sort of protective mechanism for soft tissue? And is there some sort of ability to get that out of the way of the saddle?
Because in an ideal world, your pelvis is rotated forwards
Yeah.
when you ride a road bike.
Yep.
Which will
Something
narrow the
of that
contact
ilk.
patch through bone anyway.
What happens when your pelvis rotates forwards? The soft tissue
Soft
needs
tissue
somewhere to
anyway.
go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if you imagine yourself standing upright and then hinging forward, leaning forward, your pelvis kind of rotates in that similar kind of fashion when you're on the bike. Because, you're basically leant forward on the bike, right? So we want to take the weight through the bone. We don't want to take the weight through soft tissue. As you rotate forward, that soft tissue comes forward and down. And so most modern saddles will have some pressure relief channel in the middle of the saddle. And that's probably the greatest invention in terms of saddle innovation of the last 30 years or so. Maybe Specialized have to take credit for that in terms of creating a common saddle with pressure relief channel. And we've talked about it on podcasts before, how we used to put up with our crazy old saddles, which were all rounded and domed and had no pressure relief channel, and we all just put up with kind of numb bits. So Specialized came along and, probably Andy Pruitt and his BG Fit system, body geometry, created some regular saddles with a pressure relief channel, and I think that changed a lot of lives. Yeah. So you were saying earlier, Matt, that we don't necessarily just need a big hole in the middle of the saddle.
Yeah.
There's other methods for creating pressure relief.
Yeah, so not all
those.
pressure relief's created equal. Some people really don't get on with like a full cutout. So we're seeing it more and more now with like the 3D printed saddles. And before that, for example, like Specialized did their Mimic range, still do their Mimic range, which has like a really soft kind of central part to the saddle towards the nose. Yep. And the 3D printed saddles have kind of taken that one step further, where you can control the density of the honeycomb structure to be firmer in areas where you want firmness and softer in areas where you don't. So sometimes people really get along with that kind of pressure relief system because it dulls the transition between the actual saddle where you contact it and into the relief channel. So sometimes people can feel like a real bite into the relief channel, which
just
is
along the edges
not great,
of
just along the edges of the
channel,
cutout, which can cause more problems. So like a full cutout isn't for everyone, but I would say overwhelmingly that most people get on well with a cutout of some sort, but some really don't like the transition into it. So there are other options that you can look at, but like pressure relief in the middle of the saddle is overwhelmingly a good idea, I would say.
Yeah, I think the concept really is either you take away that point of pressure or you spread it out, like distribute the pressure over a greater area. So if you've got a saddle with a little bit more softness in that central area, then that just allows the pressure to distribute over a greater area whilst still providing a solid support underneath the bone, which will give you the kind of support that you need.
I'd say the second bit is where the cutout is. I'm just looking at our wall, and there's one particular saddle up there which looks horrendous. But where the cutout is placed is really important as well. Some saddles have it kind of like quite far back. Mm-hmm. Some have it like really far forward. Some go all the way through the saddle. Just looking at that Trek Aeolus, the new one, which literally has a cutout front to back. Whereas some have like a token gesture of a cutout in completely a inappropriate place for a lot of people. Once you figured out, okay, I need a pressure relief device of some sort, where that is can make or break your experience on the saddle as well.
Any bits of advice on how people might decide on whether or not they need a pressure relief channel, which is either a little bit further back or further forward?
Do you want the facetious answer or the actual answer?
Or both, obviously.
Well, all right, the facetious answer depends how much of a prawn you are. The actual answer is it depends on your hip mobility. So the further you can hinge forward into your kind of position, usually you're probably going to get on well with a cutout with a more forward placement. So yeah, generally people with like very good hip mobility tend to get on well with full length cutouts that run right to the nose of the saddle, just because the more you rotate your pelvis forwards, the smaller the contact patch is on bone, and the more that soft tissue is likely to interact with some sort of structure. So remove the structure, the soft tissue can't interact with anything, so you're just left with contact on bone. See? Educational and controversial.
Chan, you got any favourite kind of saddles with channels in them?
I think like the one Matt mentioned, the Trek Aeolus, kind of just covers all bases, doesn't it? It's right the way from the front to the back. So
It's quite a favourite at the moment, isn't it?
It is a favourite.
It's fairly accommodating.
It's fairly inoffensive.
The interesting one is the SLR, the Sella Italia SLR, which has a massive cutout, but consequently is the one that we probably most often find people get irritated by it, because it is so big and the edges of it are quite sharp. So that can cause some kind of unwanted friction, I guess.
I guess that's an interesting difference between the Aeolus and the SLR, where the Aeolus, the edges are fairly flat and wide, where the saddle transitions into the cutout itself, so there's a little bit more surface area before you feel the edge of the cutout, I think. And I think that location, or the locations of the edges of the cutout, become really, really important. That can be determined just on your anatomy as well as like kind of how much you lean forward. You know, the width of your pelvis, your pelvic bone at that point as you lean forward.
I've just had the thought that might explain why Sella Italia have done the weird update to the SLR. Because actually, now I'm looking at it, the cutout, yes, it's weird because they've got this kind of weird groove that runs sort of through the meatier part of the saddle, but it actually makes the cutout, the kind of gradient of the cutout, a lot less severe. So I'm wondering if that's why they've moved to a kind of weirder shape where now the cutout's just slightly less angular.
I would also offer another perspective on that, in the fact that if you look at the old SLR versus the new one doesn't flare anywhere near as aggressively as the old one. It's more of a V-shaped saddle rather than a suggestion of a T-shaped. So, but that kind of brings me up, like, we're getting onto this, but I think like cutout is one thing, but the flare of the saddle and where you sit relative to the cutout is another.
Yeah.
So the reason I kind of say that, I had a gent yesterday who I put on an SLR and then immediately put on an Aeolus after, and like the SLR, he couldn't sit back into it because the flare was too wide, so he couldn't utilize the full benefit of that big cutout because he couldn't sit far back enough into the saddle because he was being blocked by the slightly more aggressive flare of it.
Yeah.
So put him on the Aeolus, which flares slightly later and slightly more gradually, gets the benefit of the cutout whilst getting that better base of support at the back of the saddle.
So this is where saddle fitting becomes multifactorial.
Yeah.
You know, you may have found a saddle that relieves that pressure in the middle, but if you can't sit on it in the right way or in the right place, then that pressure relief channel isn't doing the job that you want it to do.
So this is where like the shape of the saddle becomes really important, and I would argue that the most important aspect about the shape is the rate of which the saddle flares, where it flares, and what it transitions to in the back of the saddle.
So if you view the saddle front to back, or if you took a bird's eye view of the saddle and you're looking at the shape of the saddle as it transitions from the front to the back, then some saddles will stay narrower for longer and then flare out more quickly towards the rear, wider part of the saddle, and others will be more of a V-shaped, as you're saying. So we generally categorize them as like either T-shaped saddles or V-shaped saddles, and that will suit different kind of anatomies.
Yeah. So if you want an example of a very V-shaped saddle, look at Poggy's bike. Physic Argo is a very V-shaped saddle. Yeah. And if you want an example of a T-shaped saddle, then something like a specialized Roman or a
Van der Poel's bike.
Or look at Mathieu Van der Poel's bike. He's got a flight, a Sella Italia flight. So they're kind of like the opposite ends of the spectrum. But basically, you're asking yourself, where does the kind of like the saddle get wide? How soon does it get wide, and at what rate?
And how would should we give the people some examples of people that might suit like T-shaped saddles and V-shaped saddles? I'm thinking like maybe Van der Poel and Poggy are kind of interesting examples. So like Van der Poel is, a classics rider, one day a specialist, has loads and loads of, let's say like 1 minute power. Like, put him up a berg and he can absolutely smash his way up a berg because he's got loads of power and can sustain it. So he's pretty muscular, right? So he's got big old thighs. And so those thighs need enough room to kind of move in the downstroke of the pedal stroke. So if you've got bigger thighs, then you need a bit more clearance as you push down. And so that T-shaped saddle might give you a little bit more room. So I tend to find T-shaped saddles suit either more muscular or larger set riders better than, say, a V-shaped saddle. Let's say if you put Van der Poel on like a Specialized Power or Dimension, he would probably hate it.
Yeah, so muscular structure is one aspect of it.
Yeah.
But also pelvic structure.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, now we can't obviously scan that, but
yeah,
if you're, just as an example, if you're like riding a V-shaped saddle and you feel like you're perched right on the nose of it, and you feel like you're being blocked in sort of sitting further back into it, and you end up feeling like two very distinct points of pressure when you move back, chances are that a narrower, more T-shaped saddle might serve you better because you can sit more in the meat of the saddle and get a better base of support.
Or if you're getting loads of chafing on the back
of the back part. Yeah, so where the hamstring meets the glute, that kind of like hamstring glute tie, the back, if you're getting like loads of skin rub in there, then chances are your saddle may be either too flat or too wide. Mm-hmm. So that could be something to kind of think about and address. And likewise as well, if you're getting that kind of like only on one side, then likely there might be a compensation where you're trying to find a place where you can sit on the saddle. So that could be something to kind of look out for.
Yeah, your body often goes, I don't want rubbing on both sides, so I'll try and kind of shift my butt around to kind of get comfortable on one side.
But there are T-shaped saddles that are wide and flat as well. So thinking Antares.
Yeah, Physique Antares.
Ergon, like SR, especially the SR women's sport gel one. Flares very aggressively, quite flat. So there's, you can get into a proper rabbit warren here of nuances. Yeah,
I think just having the two categories, one and bookending the spectrum is probably useful, but obviously there's everything in between. But one of the things that the saddle shape will prevent or choosing the right saddle shape will prevent is that kind of inner thigh rubbing, that chafing, and so on. Which probably brings us nicely onto the width of saddles. So
the width fallacy.
So the literal width of the saddle. If your saddle is too wide, then quite often that's where you'll get a lot of rubbing and chafing. And that can occur both at the back of the saddle, so inner thighs. If you're kind of knocking into the sides of the saddle every time you pedal, then probably too wide. But you've got to figure out if it's because it's too wide because the location of that width is important. So if the rear part of the saddle is just too wide, then you'll probably feel it as you push back into the saddle, the kind of the join into your hamstring and glute. If it's the wrong shape, so you've got a V-shaped saddle instead of a T-shaped saddle, then that width, you're probably going to feel it more in the middle of the saddle, the middle part of the waist of the saddle. So you might get more chafing on the inner thighs. But the nose of the saddle can also be too wide. So we're seeing a lot of short nose saddles retain quite a wide kind of width. What examples have we got?
Specialized Power.
Yeah. Those came out pretty quick.
Yeah.
What were they?
Pro Stealth.
Very
wide, very flat.
Yep.
The Power, I guess the Power Mirror specifically.
Power Evo, the new one. It's a lot flatter, a lot wider than the old Power.
Yeah. because the power itself has has a pointy nose.
Yeah.
But yeah, the mirror version flattens out quite a bit.
Maybe the Sella Italia Novus is probably a
Novus
example then.
is a good example of that. I'd say the Tracheolus that we were talking about is also an example of a wideish kind of nose. But yeah, probably Pro Stealth is probably the widest.
Yeah.
And some of the idea behind that was to allow people to sit further forward on it, give more support in that kind of forward position. But yeah, just pay attention to where you're getting the rubbing, and that will give you more of an indication of whether or not a saddle is too wide, like whether that's at the nose, in the middle, or at the rear. And this is why just measuring your sit bones to get the width of the saddle is only part of the equation, and usually doesn't yield the right result, because it's only taking one aspect of your anatomy, and also not taking into account how you rotate your pelvis when you're on the bike. Like if you're just taking a sit bone measurement, whether you sat on a bench upright, that's not going to give you an accurate representation of what you're doing on the bike.
Good for a line bike fit.
Yeah. I mean, well, look at the saddles on a line bike. Like how huge and wide they are. It's because they want everyone to sit upright on them, right?
I'm sure every bike fitter out there has encountered someone who's like a tiny lady, for example, who's come in on like a 155 millimeter or even
168 mil power.
168 mil power or 168 mil specialized Phenom, because a shop told them that they had wide sit bones, and that when they sat on a thermal mat.
Yeah, throw it in the bin.
All right, let's move on to profiles of saddle. So if we looked at the saddle nose on, and we looked at the shape of the saddle across the saddle, some will be flatter, some will be more domed and round. What do people need to look for when we're thinking about this aspect of the saddle? What kind of pelvic shapes will suit flatter saddles? What kind of pelvic shapes will suit kind of rounder saddles? Or can it relate to any of the other points that we've been talking about?
Yeah, I was gonna. So obviously, generally, we're talking about like the depth of your pelvis.
Mm-hmm.
It's something we often talk about, but it's also worth mentioning before we say that the flatness of the saddle can also affect how you perceive the width of the saddle.
Yep. So, do explain, Chan.
So, everything that we've just talked about regarding the width of the saddle, you may also experience when a saddle is too flat.
Yeah.
Because a flatter saddle will kind of be felt as if it's a wider saddle, if you think about it.
I mean, physically, you might have two saddles which are exactly the same width.
But if one is a lot rounder in terms of the profile as way it's just described, then generally you'll feel as if it's a little bit narrower.
Yeah. Because essentially the contact it makes with your pelvis, it will be narrower.
Yeah.
If you think about what we're trying to do, really is trying to match the shape of the saddle with the shape of your pelvis. So if you have, as Matt was saying, like a deeper pelvis, where, say, from the top to the bottom of your pelvis is fairly tall, then probably a rounder shape or profile is going to match better than a very flat saddle, where if you've got like a relatively shallow pelvis, then a flat saddle is going to provide you with better contact all the way through the pelvis. And so that's where saddles really kind of get comfortable, is where you can match the shape of the saddle with your pelvis in the right kind of posture that you're adopting on the bike. And that allows the saddle to spread the pressure out across the pelvis. And so you don't feel that kind of really one point of contact or 2 points of contact. So really that's kind of what we're trying to do, is spreading pressure out. Could round saddles, could the wrong choice of kind of profile saddle create chafing or rubbing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if your saddle profile isn't round enough,
Yep.
and you have a lot of kind of pelvic rock,
Yep.
then that can cause some friction. But if your saddle is too round,
Yep.
and it allows for too much kind of pelvic rock,
Yep.
then that can cause friction as well.
Yeah.
So both are just as bad as each other.
Yeah. So
It's all wrong if it's wrong.
yeah, and similarly, I think coming back to pressure points, like when you get a rider who feels two really distinct pressure points underneath their sit bones, I think usually that can be a sign that your saddle's too flat, and your saddle again is not making enough contact through the whole of your pelvis, but really just making contact on those two distinct points, and so you're kind of sitting on the saddle rather than around the saddle or in the saddle.
Well, we usually say kind of in the saddle or in the bike rather than on top of it.
Yeah. So you kind of want to be in or part of the bike. So
At one with the bike.
But I think it's like it also depends on the use case of the bike. So some people have the same saddle profile across multiple different types of bikes. So I have a flat bar bike and a drop bar bike. I run the same saddle on both, but you have different saddles on different bikes because for different positions.
Yep.
So you've kind of got to work that out as well. You know, what is the position of your pelvis, and what does the profile of the saddle need to be in order to generate that support that you want within the context of the overall position of the bike.
Yeah. Should we give the example of TT bikes versus, say, like a mountain bike?
Sure.
Two very distinct kind of use cases. Yeah. What have you got on your time trial bike at the moment, Matt?
What have you got on it today?
I didn't realise I had a time trial bike.
Well, you've turned your road bike into a time trial bike. Well, you've tried to turn your road bike into a time trial bike.
My Franken time trial bike, the Bontrager Hilo, is the one I used for the race.
Yeah. So, and can you describe what kind of saddle that is?
So it's a time trial saddle, obviously. It's very flat in terms of the side profile.
Yeah.
It has a very kind of full length forwards cutout. That didn't really make sense. A cutout that runs very far forwards, as do kind of most time trial saddles.
Yep.
It's very soft at the front. It's quite narrow. So I think the measured width is 130.
Yeah.
It's very V-shaped.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have much of a flare at all.
Mm.
Correct. Yeah, it's kind of like a rectangle.
So a narrow V.
A narrow, yeah.
Yeah. And where do you sit on it?
Right at the front.
Yeah. So I guess the idea behind a time trial saddle is to be able to adopt an aerodynamic position, and that usually means quite a lot of pelvic lean. So you've got to rotate your pelvis forward quite a lot. And you've got to find some stability in quite an aggressive position. So the more you lean forward, the more you need that central relief channel. The more you lean forward, then the narrower the saddle needs to get as your pelvis gets narrower as you lean forward. I'll put some links to an image of a pelvis if possible, but if you look at the structure of your pelvis, then basically it gets narrower as it comes forward, and so that's why saddles are shaped the way they are, usually wide at the back and narrow at the front. And yeah, because you're sitting kind of way forward on it, then that nose of the saddle is a bit wider and a bit more padded than a equivalent road bike saddle.
Basically, the waist of the saddle, I think some people call it the waist,
Yeah.
shifts further forwards
Yeah.
to match where you kind of want to sit on it in that position.
And we haven't really talked about it, but the side-to-side profile, as you were mentioning, is also very flat.
Yeah.
So you can kind of shuffle your body forward and back on it as you need to. Compare that with what have you got on your mountain bike?
Oh, I don't know, this is a good example. I've got an Aeolus on my mountain bike.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what have you got on your mountain bike?
Yeah, it's probably a
because
better-
you ride a different mountain bike saddle.
So I've got two which I enjoy. So one is the Ergon SM mountain bike, which is a classic T-shaped saddle. It's not actually got that much of it's got a channel, pressure relief channel, but it's not a full cutout. And that's because I sit a little bit more upright on it. I don't need to lean so far forward, and so I don't need a kind of full length cutout. T-shaped saddle because I sit more upright, which means it brings your thighs back a little bit more. So T-shaped saddles tend to suit a slightly more upright riding position. as well, and a little bit more padding because I'm riding off road. So, that's the complete opposite to the the Bontrager high-low, which you were just describing. So, horses, of course, is mountain bike, more upright riding position, TT, really forward aero position. So you just need different saddles to help you sustain those postures. And then road bikes are somewhere in between. So your discipline matters and the posture that you adopt matters. But your posture may not be just determined by your discipline. It can be determined by your body itself. So we had an interesting guy in yesterday, Tall Seb, if you're listening. I don't know if he listens to the
He doesn't listen to this.
He was a really interesting case. And I don't know, what do you guys think of his sitting position?
Well, I was going to say, as before you got onto it, that just like where your handlebars are essentially does not necessarily dictate the posture of your pelvis on the bike.
Correct.
You dictate the posture of your pelvis on the bike.
Which then dictates where your handlebars need to go.
Sure. In an ideal world.
Yeah.
But just imagine, again, we're talking about the ideal situation where your bike fits great. Like, we're not thinking about that. We're just thinking about saddles and posture.
Well, Seb was interesting because he can ride a lot. And he's got no issues going out and banging out 100 miles for fun. Like, you don't get out of bed for less than 80.
Yeah.
But a lot of his issues are not related to the bike at all. So there's like a functional aspect of this as well, right? So if you can't create stability through your feet and kind of stack everything on top of your feet on the pedals with good proprioception through 3 points of contact and your tripod, your kind of like big toe, little toe, and your heel, then the force it takes to stabilize you on the bike has to go somewhere. And usually that is the next adjacent contact point, which is your saddle. And if you imagine being left hanging on a seesaw as a kid, feet dangling in the air, what's taking all the weight?
In the up position.
Not good. So Seb was kind of interesting because he's got riding the bike isn't his problem at all. Like, he can ride pretty much as he wants, but he's not necessarily in control of his discomfort, and particularly through his feet in this instance. So providing that your kind of like bike fit, as we've assumed here, is in a good place. I don't think we made any changes to Seb's bike position at all. None whatsoever. Then it's down to you as the rider to create movement in that environment. And this is the hard conversation, the uncomfortable conversation that most people don't want to have or hear, is that you might be the problem. Your strength, your capacity, your ability to stack your body on top of your feet and interact with or be in control of your interaction with the bike could actually be the thing that holds you back. You might have arrived on, the saddle might actually be fine. And it might be a good shape, might have a good level of padding, the cutout might be in the right place, if the flare is in the right place, all the good stuff. But if you don't have the capacity to control your interaction with the bike as a whole, then your saddle may not feel as good as it could. So I remember years ago, we had one guy who used to fly in from Australia to do Ride London, Ben. And he insisted on riding this daft sheet of carbon that he got off. This is the early days of AliExpress. And he loved this saddle because it was super light. There was nothing to it. And he'd come in for like a bike fit every year before Ride London. And he did this like 3 times. And like every year, he's just like, my bike's getting more and more comfortable. The saddle hasn't changed. I was like, well, why is that, Ben? He's like, well, I don't know, but my power seems to be going up like year on year. I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense as to why your bike's getting more comfortable. He's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're putting more through your feet and less through your saddle. He's like, oh yeah, makes sense. So it's like just having a less of a kind of like a heavy interaction with his saddle made it more comfortable.
Yeah.
He didn't change the saddle. His bike fit didn't really change that much. Yeah. He just got stronger. So he was more in control of how he was interacting with the bike.
Yeah. Just relying less on the saddle to do the support work.
And this is kind of like, we've just spent 3 weeks watching people smash around France. this is why World Tour pros can ride World Tour positions, because they put out World Tour watts. Like, you know, when you're smashing up Alpe d'Huez, you know, breaking records for fun, you're probably not that in contact with your saddle that much. Because the more you put through the feet, the less you're going to feel your saddle. So there's kind of Matt jokes with me that is apparently there's a signature Matt fit now, whereby basically just people are just putting so much like through their feet that they just look like they're standing on the bike. And that is kind of like, that's by design, you know, like in certain ways. Like, it's not for everyone, but you know, it's like, yeah, the more you put through your feet, the less the other two contact points have to do. So if you're not necessarily strong enough to be able to put sufficient force through the pedals and through your feet for the desired amount of time, then that could be some low-hanging fruit in order to make your ride a bit more comfortable.
I think this was the interesting thing about yesterday as well. So coming back to Seb and his feet, we did some stuff at his feet, stabilized those. And actually the thing that we saw that changed the most was actually how he sat on the saddle.
His symmetry, right?
Yeah, his symmetry. Yeah. So the symmetry, so he was really dropping into his right side and stabilized the right foot. Suddenly he could sit kind of more square on the bike. He actually looked pretty good. So, you know, the saddle issues or contact that you have can just be symptoms of something else that's going on within the system, which is why we keep banging on about, you know, looking at the whole kind of context. But we just wanted to give you a little bit more specificity around actual saddles themselves, because the saddle itself is important.
It is important, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But it's not, the acute symptom is often not the root cause.
Yeah. Which was interesting. I got another email from someone the other day. He was just like, you know what? After all these years, I think I really need to sort out my TT saddle because I'm just not comfortable. And if I want to break a certain time for my 25-mile TT, oh no, it was 10 mile, then I just need to be more comfortable. And it was quite a realization of like, actually, comfort does equal performance.
Yeah, it's the prerequisite. Health and comfort is the prerequisite of performance, because the body will always prioritize your health and comfort over performance. Like, and you have no control over that. That is your subconscious supercomputer that you cannot override. So the more comfortable you are, the more sustainable the position is, then you're kind of like, you're building a more solid foundation and better fundamentals in which you can build better performance.
Cool.
Now, we're not necessarily saying that you should all go and ride armchairs with handlebars, but if your body is under less stress, you can perform better.
Cool. Okay, we got about 5 minutes left of the podcast. Should we talk about some like weird saddles?
Why are you looking at those?
Because they're weird.
I don't like where this is going.
Just like, we're going to go super high level, just run through some weird saddles and why we use them, what they're useful for. Let's talk about the Infinity saddle. What is it? What do we use it for? Who's it work for? Who wants to go for that? Chan, you want to describe what an Infinity saddle is?
It's very dear for one thing, considering there's very little
How
of it.
little of it there is. It's a saddle for people that can't sit on saddles.
Their customer service is horrendous as well.
It's basically a saddle-shaped outline with a, you know,
it's like the anti-saddle, isn't it?
Yeah. So
yes,
actually the contact point
a negative
is,
saddle.
Yeah, the minus saddle. But the contact point is, yeah, it's like an outline of a saddle, but there's no contact through bone or like soft tissue in the middle of the pelvis.
The whole saddle is a cutout.
The whole saddle's a cutout, and you're essentially being kind of supported on your glutes. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess imagine if you
Trace the outline of your backside.
Yeah.
And then
If you,
It's
like,
I wasn't going to say it, but it's basically a toilet seat.
yeah. I was about to say.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
like
a toilet seat.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. So if you imagine that, I think you've got a pretty good idea of what the Infinity saddle is.
Yeah.
But ultra distance people love it.
Yeah.
Like, so this was kind of made famous in like Race Across America. It's an American saddle, I think California, somewhere in California. And it's basically people who are riding like weeks on end. that they're gonna feel something. So if you take away all of the contact and put the contact basically in kind of like, you know, on your glutes, the idea is that no saddle discomfort. Now the kicker with this thing is that it's real wide at the back, so it can end up like, you know, kind of causing some skin irritation and friction in that area. But as a problem solver, I've used it twice and it's actually worked really well.
There's always one person out there.
So if you can't sit on a saddle, this could be the saddle for you.
Okay, let's talk about the saddle next to it. SMP saddles,
The mighty SMP.
Why do we?
True saddle.
All right, Matt. This is your bag. You love SMP.
Well, it's pelvis shaped, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, anyone who's been in for a fit with us has probably met Doris, our model of a pelvis. And Doris's favourite saddle is an SMP because it fits the shape of her pelvis really nicely. So it's very curved front to back. It's like a bucket, like a hammock. And generally speaking, quite curved across the rear of the profile of the saddle. Full length cutout. So the cutout runs right the way to the front. This saddle tends to work better for people with very good hip mobility, I've found. I don't know why I have one, but I do. But yeah, generally the more you can rotate your pelvis forward, the better you can get on with this saddle. Now the kicker with this is that you have to be a bit more precise in where you fit it. The more kind of like hammock shaped or bucket shaped the saddle, the more accurate you have to be with the angle. But you have way more range as well. So some people like them quite nose down. There's one guy who we have who actually has his nose up, and it works really, really well. So you've got a lot more capacity to experiment with this, but it really helps if you have good hip mobility for this one.
It's kind of a one position saddle, but that one position is amazing.
Set and forget.
Yeah. Let's talk about almost the opposite. So the Power Evo, which is a relatively new saddle.
Yeah, I think this is a really good update.
Yeah, it's surprising. I didn't like it when it first came out, but
no, we didn't like it because it was a Power, and then we tried it and we were like,
sleeper hit.
This is all right. Yeah.
Why do you guys like it?
I think they've just made some subtle improvements to the previous version. So I don't know, what would you say, slightly rounder at the wings maybe?
So it's rounder at the back of the saddle. It flares later and less aggressively, which I think is why people get on with it a lot better.
So it's not going to shunt you forward potentially quite as much as the old Power, where you kind of had to sit on the nose.
Yeah, you can sit on more of it. It's got a slightly flatter nose across like the profile of the saddle, so a bit wider, a bit flatter. As you rotate forward, that might offer more people a better base of support. So there's actually more saddle to support your pelvis on. Whereas the original Power was very narrow at the nose, and there's like two very thin rails to kind of sit on. And it's actually quite soft.
Yeah, it's got quite a decent level.
A bit more
of
push
padding.
for the push.
Would I be right in saying they offer a narrower version?
Yeah, 130.
Yeah, it's not out
Which is a
yet.
game
But
changer.
Yeah, which that's going to be a banger.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Interestingly, for me, it's the total opposite to an SMP, but because of that, it offers lots of different positions for people to figure out where they want to sit on it, and therefore maybe it's a more accommodating saddle than say an SMP, where you really got to work and find out where your exact position is.
I think for people who are short-nosed saddle curious, that's potentially a good way in.
That is the phrase of the week. Short nose saddle curious.
You can have that one. But isn't it? Because like it's quite forgiving. Whereas the old Power, there was literally like an SMP. There's one place to sit on it, but it's right at the nose.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, you've got a bit more real estate to play with.
Cool. And finally, let's talk about 3D printing. What do you guys think about 3D printing? What bits of advice could we give to people? What would we expect? Because we've got a Physique Arione here on the jig, 3D printed version.
That thing needs to be taken off the jig yesterday.
We've got a Bjorn over here with a very different kind of lattice. We've got a Sella Italia SLR in a 3D printed version.
So that's interesting, right? So the Sella Italia 3D printed saddles are very firm, and they're like cheese graters.
Yeah.
The honeycomb is very kind of like wide. and it's very, very firm. Whereas like a specialized 3D printed saddle, in contrast, is very soft. So it's not all created equal. So the idea with a 3D printed saddle is that you can control, or the marketing would suggest that you can control where the saddle is kind of different densities, so where it's firmer, where it's softer, so you can create a personalized, or is it personalized? No, it's just different, isn't it?
Yeah,
just different sensations in different parts of the saddle. The beef I have with 3D printed saddles is that oftentimes they're too soft.
Interesting.
So too soft can be just as bad as too firm.
Yep.
So if you bottom in the thing out, you just sat on a shell, and that's going to suck, and you're reducing stability as well. So in my brain, you want to sit on the firmest saddle you can kind of tolerate, but also they're very grippy. So if you like to move around on your saddle, maybe a 3D printed saddle is not going to be the one, because it might kind of like chew your bib shorts off.
It does. I've seen people like just come in with tears in their bib shorts just from 3D
And I think
printed
like
saddles.
for a while, 3D printed saddles were kind of like, everyone was like, oh yeah, I need one. Whereas now we're putting people on them more and more. And unless there's a specific kind of reason for it, then I don't think we go through anywhere near as many 3D printed saddles as I thought we would, maybe 18 months, 2 years ago. It's a different solution to a potential problem. So like one of the things we get a lot, we use like a specialized Roman loads. It's quite an inoffensive shape. It works well for a lot of people, but for a lot of people it's too firm, because it's quite, there's not a lot to it. If you like the shape of it, the mirror version, the 3D printed topper, could be a way to kind of like, mute that firmness a little bit. So that's kind of how I think of that kind of relationship between two of the same shapes of saddle, but with two different uppers. So it can create a different kind of sensation if that rider needs it. Whereas Trek, like the Heirloom Aeolus, which is the 3D printed one, is actually quite firm. And it's got a very tightly packed honeycomb. So that creates a different sensation again. Same kind of principle in the fact that the upper is constructed using a 3D honeycomb, but it's a very different sensation. So it's just horses for courses, isn't it?
Yep. As always, lots and lots to think about.
Have SMP done a 3D printed upper yet?
They have. Yeah, I have not.
Why haven't we got one?
I haven't put my hand in my pocket yet.
Yeah, they're probably like quite expensive.
£1 billion.
Yeah. But, I think this is the way that saddles are going, and there will be more and more options. But I think that the message is, as always, figure out what works for you. And saddles, just because they're 3D printed, doesn't make them better. They're just different. So just got to figure out what works for you. But hopefully that has been useful. Again, if you're suffering from any excessive pressure, if you're suffering from friction, if your bike fit is kind of correct or as good as it can be, and you're still experiencing those things in the saddle, then maybe it's time to look at the saddle. But as always, don't forget the human being on top of it. Changing saddles and things is always attractive and easy, but often if you go through many different saddles, then the solution could actually be elsewhere.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you're getting the same sorts of discomfort on multiple different saddle shapes, maybe the saddle's not the issue.
So have a think about it. As always, if you've got any questions for us, let us know. Write us in, send us an email, leave us a comment, and if you want us to speak about anything else in particular, especially around saddles and so on, leave us a message. All good, guys? Right, we'll leave it there. Yeah, we'll leave it there for this week, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening, everyone. Ta-da! If you made it to the end of this episode, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, do leave us a rating or review, as this really helps other riders find our podcast too, and motivates us to keep making more episodes. Thanks for your support, and catch you on the next one.
Suffering from numb hands, tingling toes, and any other persistent discomforts when you ride? These are all signs that your bike fit could be improved. If you're bike fit curious, get in touch with Way or Matt by emailing info@foundation.fit or finding them on Instagram @FDN_bikefit. Finally, for all your bike servicing needs, custom dream bike or hand-built wheels, go to www.frequencycycleworks.com or find me on Instagram @frequencycycleworks. Until next time, keep on spinning.